All right, we are back with another episode of the Cayden Show. Welcome, and I know, Cayden, you're so energetic today. I know, I am. Um, what a great day it is. It's been a little bit. I know I've been doing every other week is usually when I'm posting now. Sometimes I go a little bit further out. I want to get back to every week. I do, guys. But there's some other things I'm kind of trying to push and pursue that will only help benefit this podcast and are in regards to the full brand U.S. American and where I have to start, right? Because we have to start somewhere. So it's been fun. It's been an experience. But with that being said, I am here, and we have a pretty fun topic today. We're gonna keep it a little bit shorter today. I have a pretty cool topic cooking up for hopefully this Friday. I'm planning, so I'm gonna give you 2 episodes this week. But this episode will be a little bit shorter. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna give you 2 episodes, hopefully this week. So I'm not gonna talk about the second one. I'm gonna let that be. And then we're going to go from there on things. So I want to highlight, though, really quick. I did talk about a 250 series. Unfortunately, that fell through, if you couldn't tell. But I plan on kind of bringing it back, at least hitting the podcast episodes that I planned on writing. It fell through due to inconsistencies on my part. But it would have been a lot of traction. It would have been super popular. But everything works out for a reason. So I'm still thinking about, I'm probably going to end up still doing that episode this July. That big one that I kind of hyped up in the beginning of the year. So let's talk. Let's do it. So what are we talking about today? Right? We see this fear mongering propaganda in today's society that America's coming to its end. America's going to fall. World War III, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, do I think this is wrong? Not necessarily. Now, when I say that, I don't think America's going to fall, right? And I don't necessarily think there's going to be a World War III. I think we're going to see a change of aggression. We're going to see a change of practice, of relationships throughout the world. For instance, I think when we look at World War III, when we think another major conflict between a bunch of countries, right? That's what a world war is when enough countries get involved where it becomes a conflict that affects the world. I think we're going to see something more economic. And not to get off topic, because that's not what we're talking about today, nor do I plan on talking about that, just because it's far out of my reach and where I should be speaking. So with that being said, and with the conflicts going around the world, what is happening, right? And I thought, and by the way, guys, my lips are a little chapped, so please don't judge me, okay? I'm really trying. What does this mean? Right? What are we reflecting on? What do we look to for certainty, for facts, for reflection on society? And today, I think what we should really be highlighting is the Roman Empire, right? And there's going to be another segment to this, but I want to break this down first. I thought about doing it after or in the middle, but I want to get this out of the way just because I want to mainly hit on our society in today's world, right? But I want to highlight what happened in the Roman Empire, okay? So when we look, we're going to see the rise of the Roman Empire was about 753 BC. This is what I pulled. These are the facts I pulled. 753 BC to 27 BC. So starts a small city in Rome, becomes the Roman Republic, and expands through military dominance. Okay, and the key turning point of this time was Julius Caesar, his rise of the Civil War, and so on. So if we keep moving forward, we're going to have the empire peak. And this was hard, but this is kind of what I had pulled for my information. I'm more than happy to put my sites down below. First emperor was Augustus, a period called Pax Romana. Roman peace. It was massive infrastructure, roads, adequate cities, right? So we go from the Roman Empire being a small town to massive expansion, right? To being the empire it was, or a little bit smaller. They did some more expansion after. To this promising leader who's going to come in and who's going to really focus at home, right? Infrastructure, roads, buildings, government buildings, right? Social programs, et cetera, et cetera. We see Rome becomes the center of power, trade, and culture. It really did. It really did. I mean, it spanned across most of Europe. If I'm recalling that correctly. It was Rome's absolute dominance. And then we're going to see the decline. Okay, 180 AD to 476 AD. Okay, weak leadership, political corruption, economic problems, and heavy taxes. We're going to see military stretched too thin and split into east and west. So again, we're going to see where it starts to collapse, where they start to have issues, right? But there's still hope, right? There's still hope. Eventually, Rome does fall. They lose mainly the western area. That's their really massive power they lose. And that's kind of where it starts the brink of the collapse. Now, all these dates and all of these facts have been pulled from sites, and I'm more than happy to give those sites up. There's a few, Rise of Rome. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So now that I have that out of the way, sorry guys, I spaced for a sec. I'm reading my notes. Now that I have that out of the way, I want to highlight the big picture, right? Fall was a multi casualty. All right, there was moral decay, there was government decay, military decay, right? Massive issues. We see political instability, economic strain, military overextension, right? Too much workload on the military, and external pressures, including Germanic invasions, the German invasions. So we're going to see a lot of pressure from outside. That is going to be the big highlight. But the one I want to mainly highlight is within. Rome fell from within. That's the truth. It fell from political uncertainty. It fell from massive conflicts, right? Stretched moral compasses, right? So feeling so far apart, so much separation that you snap the band of the country. Okay, so I want to highlight that, and there's a reason I want to highlight it. Okay, so let's focus on social structure and internal damnation. So I'm gonna go up here. I am going to talk now about what in America we are lacking. Okay, now in America we obviously know we have some sense of a conflict. We see massive conflicting protests on both sides, right? We see lots of exercises that are found to be conflicting, right? We see a few world conflicts. We see other countries throwing in pressure, right? We see a lot of issues economically and through aggression. So we have to reflect on those things, and I'm not going to be the one to highlight those. I'm going to allow you to go out and find what in the world is being conflicting if you don't already know. Okay, I want to talk about what we are losing, what to reflect on in this country that I think are important. Okay, so first, starting off religion, and when I say religion, I am a Christian, as you guys know. I am a Christian. I'm an outspoken Christian. But for those that aren't Christians, for those that aren't religious, a moral compass. And moral is not science. Moral is not science. Moral is your spiritual code. It's what you believe in down to your heart, and you are willing to a sense, die for it. Whether this be being a good person, right? Whether this be being a Christian, a follower of Christ, whether this be living your own life, doing you, living in the woods, whatever it is, whatever your morals are, having good morals. And now when you define good moral, right, sounds a little bit conflicting because who am I to define good morals? Fair point. But I'm talking morals that aren't selfish, morals that aren't hurtful to society or only beneficial to you. All right, going into the woods or going and living alone and working your fair share of hours, paying your taxes, living your best life is not a bad thing. Now, going and trying to hurt people, trying to rebel to society, trying to do these things that are just plain out unbeneficial to you, actually, and everyone around you, that's what I'm talking about. So find that balance. We need good morals, right? Religion is the anchor for me, and religion is the anchor, should be the anchor for everyone, but it's not going to be, and that's okay. But all I ask is that we have good morals, right? We shift from objective truth to personal truth. Uh, we decline negative values, right? And when we have a decline in shared values, there's a rise in confusion, right? On top of that, so when we are so split, torn in values, we find confusion, we find threat, we find misunderstanding. You don't understand someone when you don't somewhat share a value or share a belief. It's a lot easier to wish death, to wish damnation, to wish hurtful things on someone when you don't align morally, or you don't align through principle, through politics, when you don't have conversations either. Faith used to unify communities. Faith in whether that was America, whether that was in Christ, whether that was in nature, right? Whatever it was, in ancestors, whatever culture it is, it's now fragmented or avoided. And more importantly, it's now suppressed. It's considered in some areas insulting, or it's considered hurtful, right? It's considered to be disrespectful to talk about your religion because that person doesn't know, or that person had a bad experience with that religion, or that person is hurt, right? But in reality, we live in a country where we get to speak our truths, and when we don't speak our truths, bad things happen. And that's the whole point of why this country was founded: to have conversation, to believe different things, to come together in unity through a moral principle. But we see in society today, we see people not waving the American flag. We see people fighting, whether that be physically or through words, arguing. We see people stretched so thin. We see people stressed. When we separate from our rights that have been given, or when we give them up, we find issues. Most countries don't start out in oppressive manners. Most countries start out prosperous. And then most countries become oppressive. The people become oppressed. When that happens, issues happen. Rome was a great example. Rome was prosperous. Rome was one of the greatest countries still. Well, still was one of the greatest countries for so long. And then politics and policies came in that promised safety and promised equal vision, promised a shared victory. And when people agree to this, all it takes is one time, people. All it takes is one time. So we have to think about this. All it takes is one time. Moving on to the second one, which is education. What does education mean, right? We see one side of this country who believes very strongly in education, equal education, fair education. We see one side of this country who go to your education, but we don't want to spend a bunch of money on it, right? We don't want to spend all this money on it. And then we see on this side people who actually homeschool, or a few on this side that homeschool, but mainly this side homeschool. And those kids tend to be far more successful. And I kid you not, far more successful and prepared to do greater things than either side that sends them to public school, even sometimes private school. So we have to consider these things, right? Schools teach what we think, not how to think anymore. They teach what we think, not how to think. And now you ask Cayden, well, that sounded kind of confusing. Which side do you stand for? Well, of course I stand for the side that talks about teaching us how to think. How should we think? Right? How do we take this and dissect it? Not, hey, this is what this means. Right? Do you guys get the comparison on that? Hey, this is what this means. And hey, I want you to break it down. I want you to break down these words and decide what this means. Which would you rather have? Some people do prefer the, hey, this is what you should think, right? And sometimes that's okay when you have a good mentor or you have a good teacher. But the issue with that good teacher is they are disabling that student, that learner, to be able to break it down in their own terms, because that teacher can't be there for everything to help research or dissect it for them. So what happens is you tell someone, hey, this is what this means. And it's good. It's what it means, right? But that person's going to go on later and read something and not know how to take it or not know how to perceive it. So they're going to look to a source, to someone to tell them what this means, right? So teaching people how to think is important for many reasons in society as well. Financial literacy and real world skills are missing in our school systems. Rather than teaching how to pay your taxes, how to write things off in a business, how to do certain things, rather than teaching us that, they just teach us very basic things, if anything at all. Right? Most of those classes are optional. You have to take business, introduction to business. Some states do great with this. Some states do enforce it. But to what level, right? To what level? And I go back and forth on this, to be honest. So with that being said, we're going to move into college really quick, and I'm going to keep it quick. College is a credential machine. It's not a character builder. I like that phrase. I will say I did AI that one. I know I got some hate when I was first starting out, but I did it. I like that one. It was so credential machine, not a character builder. And what that means is it builds a resume for you. It doesn't build a value, a code. It doesn't. I mean, sometimes it teaches you things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not totally devaluing college, but I'm simply saying sometimes it teaches you nothing. All it does is you put it on a resume. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, I went to college, and I would like to say I paid attention. I'm not very good at school, but I paid attention. And I have learned so much more in the past 6 months being outside of school and business than I would have ever learned out of all the things I learned in college in the year and a half I was in college. I learned more on the outside, and I can perform way better than if I had stayed in college. So like this is a prime example. I lived this example. Guys, I mean I lived it. So you can't tell me it's wrong, because I am an example for this. So what college does is it builds intelligence, but it removes opportunity for wisdom. Your youngest years are some of your most prime years. Some of your years as a kid, 18 to 25, you're going to learn some of the most valuable things. Now, some of them are degenerate lessons, right? Don't drink this, don't drink that. Some of them are that. But there's a lot of things, too, that you're going to interact with a lot of cool people. You're going to get to do a lot of cool things. You're going to be the most fierce and energetic you'll ever be in your life. Like, truly. So rather than getting into business out of school, taking on with a mentor, most people go to college, and they take away 4 or 5, 6 of those years. I mean, how does this make sense? Maybe we should question, what if I do business for 5, 6 years and then I jump into college, right? I mean, it's a good question, right? It'll do 2 things. One, it'll give you experience. It'll give you real life experience to plug and play. And 2, you might have a little bit extra finance. You might not go into debt. Now, it is a little bit harder. Usually at that age, by that time, you're living on your own, right? But people live on their own all the time that are in college. They live on their own all the time. And they have to work. Right? That would be a question that would actually technically conflict with my statement of having kids young. But that's something for people to decide who do value education. Maybe go into business. And no, internships are not that big of a deal. Internships are important. I won't devalue them, but they're not. Sorry, guys. They're not. Come on. Just yeah. Anyways. Moving on. So we're getting on to the next one. Politics. Division is now. It's now their model. It's now how they. It's how they win elections, right? When you create such division, when you create division, you create passion, because it takes passion to create division. When you create division, you create a passion for both sides. And this passion will tug and pull. It'll pull everyone. It will. It'll pull people this way. It'll pull people that way. It'll pull people from the middle. It does all these things. And it's a system. It's a machine that works itself. All you have to do is say a few words. That's what politicians do nowadays. They create outrage. They create outrage and they get profit from it. Right? You are so sick of this societal issue. Donate to my cause. Donate to my cause. Identity is now aligned with politics. Now politics are aligned with identity. Identity is now aligned with politics. And why that is an important statement is because politics didn't absorb into identity. Identity didn't absorb politics. Politics absorbed identity. That means politics is so powerful, it's so strong, it is so important that you need to rip anyone who disagrees. Family. You need to rip family. You need to rip your closest friends for 50 years. You need to rip siblings. You need to rip your parents away. You need to do all these things. Politics is so massive now. It's so massive. It's absorbed identity. It is so powerful. It sucked identity in. And identity should be one of the most massive things in our lives, is who we are. But it's so small. We're so confused, so conflicted, so passionate about these topics that we forget our moral values. We forget that we love hugs. We forget that we love to high five people. We forget that we love to meet new people. And we just think politics, politics, politics. We just think this political guy, this political guy. That's what that means. Leaders don't unify anymore. Leaders used to bring people together. And they do, but they bring the same people together. They don't pull anyone new in. They don't pull anyone new in. What that statement used to mean was people would come in, and like Martin Luther King. People would come, Martin Luther King, he'd come to speak. And people of color, people who are white, would come together. Sorry guys, these lights are like really bright. Anyways, people would come together to support a message, to support a mission that Martin Luther King was pushing. And he's a great example. He's a great example. There are many, 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 many people, but I'm going to use MLK for that one. So people are more loyal to their party than truth. That's the highlight from that. People they are so conflicted, they are so passionate about a party, about a political ideology, that they forget common sense. And this goes both sides, ladies and gentlemen. This goes both sides, sometimes one over the other. But at the end of the day, it still goes both sides. So we have to understand that. And that leads us into our last two, or I'm going to go quick through these because they're pretty much the same thing, but they're not. Relationships, and this is friends. So we have dating, we have friendships, we have romantic versus friendly friendships. Friendships are changed. You have to align on certain things these days. Some people can handle themselves and be separate from politics through friendship. But here's the issue that we have too, and this is just as bad as not talking at all to people or avoiding people who don't agree with you at all. is being friends without talking politics. And what that means, it doesn't mean get into super sensitive subjects, but basic things. As a friend, you have to understand your friend, right? You should be able to have conversations. And I talk to people all the time, but we just don't talk politics. And well, that's okay, whatever. Well, that's kind of iffy. You should talk politics. If you can't talk politics with your friend, you shouldn't be friends. And that's going to sound like it's ironic or like it's hypocritical because I say that we lose friendships because of politics, but your friends should be able to hear you. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to disagree. Be friends through disagreement. I promise you, your friend does something annoying. They chew with their mouth open. They breathe through their mouth, or they drive like a crazy person, or they drive like a grandma. Something annoys you, but you love them, you like them, you tolerate them. Tolerate's a funny word. It's not what I really mean. There's more than that, but I like to say it. You love someone so much that you're willing to look past those flaws because you like being their friend. This should be the same with politics. I don't really like Joe Biden, but I love you. And I understand that you can have your own opinion. Right? I don't really like Trump, but I love you. And you should be able to have an opinion. We're still friends. We have to be able to do these things. I don't like it. I think that people not talking politics is to a level just as bad as just not being friends with them. Because politics are important. And they're not important to the point where they should be your identity, but they're important to the point where they should be a conversation. So understand these things, and that goes into dating. And dating is going to be it's going to be a curve that's not relatable to what we just talked about. In today's society, people are being single until they're in their mid-20s. Sometimes men aren't even talking to women in person. And women either aren't talking to men in person, or women think they're too good for men, or too good for certain men, or feminist. And it's both of them are just disgusting, you know. And this is a hard one. I can't really. I'm single, right? Like I try to talk to people, but I'm not talking about me. It's a disgusting thing that we live in society, both men and women, that men think they don't need women, or that men are too busy, or that they're too nervous, or they are being pleased in other manners. And women think they're too good for guys. If they don't have a six-pack and a jawline, then they are not good enough. And I can tell you, I don't have either. So I mean, I guess you can say it's from personal. Okay, it's getting all personal, or whatever you want to say. But my point is this is a real thing, and this is deeper than just how women treat me. I guess it's a real thing. They need to have abs, jawline, and be the perfect man. We get blinded by these lustful ideas, and they are a societal failure. They already are, but they are going to continue to be a societal failure until we turn that around. And I'm not saying go for someone, I guess, who's unhealthy, or who does all these things. But I'm saying that look at people through morals, their personality, right? Who are healthy, who can stay up on a hike, who can stay caught up on a hike if you're fit, or who go to the gym, or who are socially active, right? There's so many examples. So I'm going to keep that one quick because that dating is a topic of its own that I'm not going to dive into. So what we're talking about today. But I want to highlight it. It deserves a highlight within our segments. So moving on from that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into family real quick, and then that'll be the closing area. Family. We've broken down the nuclear family. We've found less mentorship from parents. We've delayed adulthood, and we've replaced independence independence, where we replaced stability with independence. So when I say that breakdown of nuclear family, what does that mean? That sounds super, it sounds super, in society it sounds super offensive. I don't mean what people will think I mean by that. And I'm not going to specify because I'm not going to give it the time of day, but I don't mean what people think I mean by that. What I mean is it's okay. Have kids. Whether you're this, or that. Have kids. Right? Raise people. Practice. It's okay to be an American family. We broke down the nuclear family and it's caused massive issues. Right? A nuclear family is misogynistic, it's homophobic, it's racist, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's this, it's this. When half of them don't even make sense. And again, I'm not going to get into controversial terms because that's not what we do here, at least not right now. My point is the second we broke down the nuclear family was the second that we started to see societal failures. People don't have the drive to get married, to have kids, to live a long, full, prosperous, loving life. Divorce rates are over 50%. And that's a topic of its own. Less mentorship from the parents feel that their parents were over-controlling or were not good mentors or were struggling with their own lives, and who were they to talk to me about my issues? So I'm not going to talk to my kids about their issues. Delayed adulthood. Enabling children when the children don't need it. It's one thing for a child to be trying to get on their feet, to be working hard. For instance, myself. It's one thing for me to be trying to work hard and get on my feet and do multiple things. It's another for an adult or a young adult to just be going and partying and not pursuing something that is going to benefit a successful adulthood or life. So moving on, stability, right? We stability replaced with independence. What this means is we reject help. Kids reject help, or parents reject helping. So with that being said, you find that these kids are having to be independent, whether that be forced or by choice. And it can sometimes be a suicidal or a detrimental decision because sometimes kids need help. That's okay. It's okay to need help. That's what your parents are there for, right? When we were back in nature and back caveman eras, when we were at the beginning of time, kids never left their parents. They built a home next to their parents. Humans are not like animals, right? Some animals do this, right? They get raised with their parents and then they turn a certain age, usually go out and mate, and sometimes they run in a pack. Humans are that. Humans, we grow up, we become adults, we find someone to love, and we buy a house next to them. We build a house next to them. Close, right? In the same town or in the same valley, the same county. Because grandparents are important and they help out. So these are all important things to remember. So with that being said, I'm going to close it on this. I'm going to say, what are we missing? And that's a question to you. What are we missing? I think we're missing discipline. I think we're missing shared values and a purpose bigger than self. Purpose bigger than self-interest. These things are all important. But I want to know what you think. What do you think we're missing? So with that being said, I'm going to leave you here, guys. Okay? This was an awesome episode. And I am excited to hear what you have to say about this. And we're going to go from there. So anyways, guys, it was great talking. I'm going to see you guys on Friday, hopefully. That's when I'm hoping I see you next. And we'll go from there. All right. Later, guys.